This is an unboxing video where I skip the actual unboxing because it involves lots and lots of layers of bubble wrap to undo. It just takes forever. It's not like a guitar unboxing. The amps have to be very well packed. Both of these were. We've got a full TBX from the 90s on the left and hand-wired chassis only on the right. And both were packed very well. The TBX was packed apparently by the owner. If anything, they erred on the side of overpacking, and that's fine. They had huge amounts of bubble wrap, and they had foam panels between the bubble wrap and the outside of the box. And this very heavy amp made it all the way here without any issue. It'll be fun to put back together, but such is the nature of shipping amps. And on the hand-wired, FedEx wrapped it. My recommendation to most people beyond use lots of bubble wrap and don't use any packing peanuts is, if possible, have a UPS store or FedEx store or independent mail center pack the amp and ship the amp for you. You'll pay a little bit more, but if they pack it and there is a damage in shipping, they don't argue. If FedEx packs it and FedEx breaks it, you get your claim filed much better. You're much more likely to get something back. So real quick, the hand-wired made it through the journey just fine, which doesn't surprise me. It was double boxed with lots and lots of bubble wrap, both around the chassis. The chassis itself was in a plastic bag, then wrapped in bubble wrap, then put in a smaller box, and then that box was wrapped in a lot of bubble wrap and put in a large box. So no deformation. Per my request, it shipped with the wooden panel in place, which gives a lot of structural support because this chassis is two pieces, this piece and this piece. And even when it's this piece and this piece, and even when it's shipped properly, there can be a lot of stress on it. And this wooden board relieves a lot of that stress. And should something happen to this wooden board, it's a piece of plywood with some holes cut out. I could make another, but this thing is in good shape. It's all stock, shipped without tubes. We'll revisit this later and put this to the side and get to the TBX. All right, the owner bought this TBX sight unseen and had it shipped to me to be made into a real AC30. And he just saw the auction photos or whatever, Reverb, I think. So I'm going to detail how it arrived. It arrived without any shipping damage and is cosmetically in pretty good shape for an AC30 that's approaching 30 years old. The Tolex has got the usual scuffs. The material that they use on Voxes is never that rugged. The front panel looks good. The tubes and foot switch arrived removed from the amp, wrapped in bubble wrap in boxes and put in the back of the amp, so nothing should be damaged. I'll turn this around. The rear panel's got more scuffs and various bits of gaffer's tape covering up damaged areas. Each one of these damaged areas has got some kind of impression. I think they're just really bad tears in the Tolex. Once I remove the rear panel, I'll know more. But you know, this amp has been used and gigged with, and it has battle scars, but nothing seems to be structurally messed up. I will open it up in just a moment and confirm. It's got the blue speakers. The one on the right has the label upside down. That's not something I see very often. I'll see if I can check the date codes on them. One of them might be a replacement. But overall, I'd say this is looking very good. I don't have any immediate concerns. Let me take the rear panel off and see what we see. Okay, the amp is an early one. You can tell because it doesn't have the green wire from here to ground, just the one, which means that it will have the ground loop on the volume pot. I can't tell if it's all original or whether there was a factory change because the grid stoppers are right at pin 2. Whereas normally they're here on the board where there are jumpers added. The issue being that those jumpers for the grid connection are passing right over this large heater trace. Same for the screens, and you can get arcing from point A to point B. That will be corrected in the course of everything. Other than that, it looks stock, which is good. I much prefer to work with a stock amp rather than undo someone else's changes, random, well-intentioned or otherwise. There are texts that I have followed that I love following. You know, Robert Hull is a great guy to follow. I never mind getting an amp from Ken Fisher. And there are other amp techs who I will not mention that I have followed, and I hope I never get called to testify in court. But anyway, I digress. The only really weird thing I see is the speaker leads, which used to be connected to a plug to this jack, have had this extension done with a really cheap plug and some really thin gauge wire. So there's the speaker jack plugged in with all this excess, and that is not the way to do this. So I'm going to replace this whole wire with new wire from the speakers to a good quality plug here. I'll get a Neutrik or Rheon or Switchcraft plug. Amphenol is also quite good. And redo this wire, just because that, I might be able to reuse the factory wire. It just has enough slack to do it. But this nonsense has got to go away. As to the bell cover, you notice it's now at a different angle. The speaker is original. They're from the same time period. I'm sure they're both original to the amp. But these rear covers, these bell covers, kind of unscrew. I tighten it up, so now it's hard to do. And so it's just kind of random where you start versus where it ends up. If I took this off and started from a different point, I might luck out, end up with the Vox parallel to the ground. Whoever originally installed this, I'm sure the sticker was put on mostly parallel to the ground, so Vox was upright. And this just got taken off or turned at some point, but not a concern. So while the outside has some Tolex issues, like most of them do that ever get played outside of a bedroom, the amp itself looks to be in great shape. I don't see any issues. I think the guy got a good, I don't know what he paid for it, so I don't know whether he got a good deal or not, but he got what he what he expected to get. There's no hidden nightmares, nothing's damaged, everything seems to be original with the exception of this speaker wire stuff, and that's you know, unimportant in the grand scheme of things. When I take the chassis out, I will remove all the rear panels to make sure that all the hardware is tight that's holding the front baffle on. I'll make sure all the screws holding the speakers on are good. I'll make sure the speakers are good. I've got to pull the amp to put the tubes in before I can test that really. I mean, I could test this with what I have, but I like to test the whole thing before doing any work and seeing what needs work. Like on that hand wired that came in, I noticed, though I didn't mention in the video, that the power transformer was very loose. So these are the things I like to go through and check and tighten up before I do anything. I want to make sure that all the hardware holding these transformers is tight. I want to make sure that the power transformer in this one does not buzz. I've noticed that happening quite a bit. The iron in these are not great. This one's already getting a new output transformer. Hopefully the choke and power are fine. That said, while people love these TBXs, the iron that they were using was not the best stuff that Marshall had ever had made for them. Anyway, but happy news to the guy who bought this, and I think he's going to have a great amp once it's all done and ready to go, and hopefully he won't mind some good old honest gaffer's tape here and there. It's all in the back.